I remember that from high school. Hey, what's up, everybody? Gotta let it breathe. Y'all know the drill. Bring on the Book of Faces. Oh, shoot. Botched that. Hang tight one more time. There we go, as if you've not done this 1,000 times, Chad. Okay, one last thing. Go live there on Instagram, and we are good. So, welcome in, everybody. It's the Mile High Huddle podcast. I'm your host, Chad Jensen, and with me is my fellow football priest. You know him, you love him, Zack Kelberman. Zack, there have been these weird, I don't know if you would quite call them rumors, but more like people speculating and kind of pounding the table, advocating for a potential Patrick Surtain trade, which was mostly pre-draft, right? It was all part of let's get some fodder to move up and get, Caleb Williams. But he did address that recently, the rumors, kind of his outlook on being a Bronco. You had the story for us. Break it down, bro.
Yeah, you're right about that. The speculation that Patrick Surtain could be had for trade came during the early offseason, and he was recently asked about it by the Denver Gazette's Chris Thomason, and he said no, if there's any chance he thought he'd be traded, and he goes, obviously, I want to be a Bronco. Since then, Chad, they've picked up his fifth year option for 2025. They've resisted those overtures of not trading him. Then they featured him as the cover model for the new uniform, especially the throwback edition. So it's safe to say that PS2 is in the Broncos' future plans. And as I wrote, he's going into year 4 now, coming off statistically, if you go by PFF, the worst year of his career, maybe with a mega extension on the table. I think he's going to rebound in a big way under Jim Leonhard.
I'm excited for him. I'm excited to see how the new season takes shape for PS2. Little bit of a step back last year after a dominant All-Pro year, but he's still one of the best corners in the league. Let's hope Leonhard can help him become the best, undoubtedly.
Yep.
Like, Champ Bailey. He had some competition at different stretches in his career, and he was kind of weaned under one of the greats of all time, and Darryl Green. But he had for the majority of his career, he was unquestionably the man. He was number one. David, the Papa Bear, McElrath jumping in. What's up, bro? So good to see you. Thank you very much for the super. He's just saying what's up, and he's got his hashtag game strong. 12-5. Buckham times 3. That's with a B. MHH for life. Broncos for life. Bonos. Knicks for 6. And now, wait a minute, Zach. A new one here.
Believe.
Hashtag believe. Believe in Bo, right? That's what he's saying here. What's going on, Sam Bam? So good to see you, my dog. How are you? Love you, big dog. Thank you. He says, evening, guys. Go Broncos. Sam, you're just an OG, man. Appreciate you.
Go Bull Broncos, Chad.
That's right. That's right. Great to see David. Great to see Sam. Great to hear from the Ronk checking in on the bright here of our stream with some stars. Yeah, Scott's going, hey, a lot of people would argue Charles Woodson, blah, 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 blah. He says, but I'm a champ guy. Yeah, but Woodson, dude, was a little streaky. Now, trust on this, Scott, because, I've been paying a lot of attention to the AFC West for a long time. He kind of fizzled, dude. Champ never fizzled. He until literally like his last year, and he was banged up and injured, whatever. Woodson, if you recall, he fizzled in Oakland. Went to Green Bay. Kind of the sun was setting on his career. Who was that? Capers, Dom Capers, right? Resurrects him. Becomes this like nickel god in Green Bay, and they go on to win a Super Bowl. That was the career path of Woodson, and one of the best for sure. But maybe I'm a little biased on Champ Bailey's act.
If we're talking about best cornerbacks of all time, I think that's the subject here, right, Chad? I would throw Darrelle Revis in there. Obviously, Deion Sanders. Champ Bailey, though, I mean, I thought for sure, at least in Broncos lore, because it is a Broncos podcast, I thought that PS2 would live up to that, but maybe I was a little ahead of myself because I can't get the taste. There's one play of 2023 involving PS2 I cannot get out of my mouth in terms of the taste, and that's the Devontae Parker big catch in that New England game. That's a game the Broncos shouldn't have lost, Chad, and PS2 was pretty bad.
What the Sam Hill is going on here? My mind has just been blown.
Kayla.
It's as if I have ingested an illicit substance and it hits me. I'm going, whoa. Just kidding. I would never do that, though. I hope you all know that. Kids, don't ever do that. I'm being poorly metaphoric. Michaela with mm, uh, a max limit on YouTube super chat.
Wow.
She's done. This isn't the first time, Zach, she's dropped a 500 club super, but she is every time she does it, she just leaves me like completely stunned. We love you, Michaela. She says, hashtag keep the lights on. Hashtag Nick scores 6. Hashtag MHH rocks. Zach, she says, I love you guys. I might be a simple girl, but I have your back thick and thin. Yes. Thank you so much. Love you. We have yours as well, Michaela. And that is, I mean, especially this time of year, just so you know. And then, Zach, I know you want your 2 cents, but just so you know, especially this time of year, that really does go a long, long way towards helping us keep the lights on. So love you, Michaela. Mount Rushmore for a reason.
I saw Scott going crazy, and I look up, and it's like I don't know what to say, Michaela. You're a Champ Bailey supporter. We got people reacting to you, Michaela. That's how crazy appreciative. I don't even know what to say. I'm literally at a loss for words right now, Chad. This is completely genuine, Michaela. You are amazing, always and forever. We will love you as part of this community. Thank you so much.
Yeah, man. She's like
wow.
She's as much a contributor to the success of MHH over the years as any individual podcast host. That might sound maybe hyperbolic, but it's actually not. And she's just a great influence and member of our community. And I don't know, sometimes I got to pinch myself. Very lucky that we have such amazing people in our community that offer us this level of support. And it really does leave us humbled and speechless. So thank you so much, Michaela.
Literally speechless. We got Sam here, $10 super. Thank you so much, Sam, too. Wow, Michaela, very generous. I mean, I don't think generous is the word, Chad. I'm literally at a loss for words. And I don't think I can say this with certainty, not to make it a Michaela podcast, even though we would love to. This show would not be the same solely without her. So I hope you take some solace in that, Michaela. That's 100% true. Amazing what you do. Thank you.
Love you so much. I mean, look, you got Mike Edel 2 jumping in, going, good evening, gentlemen, Broncos country, just showing some love. Go MHH, go Broncos. Appreciate you guys. Seriously, man. Like, we're very, very, very fortunate. And, that's why we do what we do, to be honest with you. Like, there are days like yesterday, as a small example, it's Father's Day. I had a million reasons to mail it in. Million reasons to call Zach and be like, hey, you want to go solo? Or, hey, let's just cancel today. We'll let everybody know. And, and I'm not trying to like toot my own horn or anything. Don't mistake that. That's not what I'm doing here. But like, I'm leaving a family party. Everyone's like, oh, you got to go. I'm like, I got the show. They're like, oh, yeah, okay. Yeah. But I come back for you guys. This is the reason why, honest to God. And I take a lot of pride and I'm very serious when I say, 7 days a week, MHH has a podcast. And Zach and I, our responsibility and obligation is for 3 of those nights. And it takes a really special, significant something to keep one of us from being here. And it's because of you guys.
Beautifully said, Chad. I mean, Phil McLaughlin chiming in. Thank you, Phil. Good evening, Chad, Zach, and Deacon Scott. Go, Michaela. I want to echo that. Hashtag Michaela the Queen. I mean, that's amazing. Thank you so much, Phil. And you're right, Chad. I mean, we've done these pods for so long now, especially live streaming and super chatting and this and that. And a lot of dark days in Broncos country, a lot of bad seasons. But why we keep coming back, I mean this from the bottom of my heart. I can speak for Chad and Scott, is because of you, Michaela, everybody else. Thank you so much.
But I think, you're right, man. It's been some dark times post Super Bowl 50. But I'm trusting Sean Payton, dude. I saw all the different ways he did move the needle and all the different ways he turned out to be a man of his word, right? Like in terms of, I'm going to fix this injury bug thing. He did so with gusto, right? Fewest number of starter, whatever the metric is, fewest number of starter games lost to injured reserve, as opposed to the previous year having the most salary cap dollars in the league on IR. And the preceding 3 years before that one, it was top 5 worst injury snake bitten team in the league. Broncos go from worst to first in that department. Special teams, Zach, immediately cleaned that up, right? You would hope and you would have wished to see that also translate more palpably to the standings. And you know what? It would have if not for a couple of really crappy and unfortunate twists of fate, that's a 10-win team, even in the face of all the unfortunate things that transpired, especially relative to the imperfect fit between coach and quarterback. That was a 10-win team with a very flawed roster, imperfect fit at quarterback in year one. So what else could be in store? I know they only finished with 8 wins, guys. I know, I realize. I'm just saying, like, Zach, you go back to a couple of those games in the first 5, right? When they go 1-5, the ball bounces just a fraction of a different way. Week 1, they beat the Raiders. Same goes for that Washington game. Obviously, nobody was coming out of that Miami game with a dub. That was just history had a little something for you there. But my point is, Sean Payton proved in year 1 to be a man of his word. He moved the needle. Now let's see what he can do in year 2. I'm excited for that. So I think all we've kind of suffered and dealt with over the last 8 years, the times they are changing.
Definitely, and we do have to wait till September to get to the games and for the whole thing to transpire. But I feel, Chad, kind of what you're saying here. Like, I feel the tide turning. I feel the momentum shifting. I feel like the Broncos are finally on the right track, and it's epitomized in the fan base. People like Michaela, for example, how down on the Broncos was she before they drafted Bo Nix, and how optimistic is she now that the Broncos have Bo Nix? You just feel it's different.
Indeed. Love you guys. Thank you so much. I do want to get back just for fun here, just for a second. I want to clarify, when we talk about Champ Bailey in our conversation earlier, it's not just about, I think there's an argument to be made for him being the best ever. I'm not necessarily asserting that, but I'm saying there is a very solid argument to be made. Mainly what I was talking about was of his time, right? And he did have some competition at different points. Woodson, later on, Zach, you mentioned a guy in Revis.
Yeah.
But Champ Bailey, man, he was just, I remember that Super Bowl 48. I was like, man, how rad would it be to see it? This one's for Champ. And then that snap flies over, that first snap flies over Peyton Manning's head at MetLife. And I'm like, oh, that's a harbinger if I ever saw one. And sure enough, but anyway, Champ Bailey ended up, Zach, where he was supposed to. Hall of Fame. Love him.
I want to quote Scott. I don't want to butcher his saying, but doesn't he go like he doesn't grade different levels of elite, something like that? And it's kind of how I feel about, all these great cornerbacks we're talking. Those all have their place in NFL history. Hopefully PS2, Chad, can continue on that track to be in that rarefied air.
Indeed. Yesterday, guys, we had a pretty long conversation about this topic from Todd Ostendorf, saying many in Denver media are saying Jarrett Stidham has had the best performance of the offseason, but it's still Nix's job to lose. Yeah, but what's funny about that is, and again, look, I used to do this a lot more, Zach, but I no longer do I really listen much to any of the other podcasts or even radio shows. I used to, like 24/7, I was listening to something, even if it wasn't our stuff. I was just constantly keeping something in my ear about the Broncos podcast and different audio content. And I haven't really been doing that as much for the last probably, 3 or 4 years. Probably since, really, honestly, Zach, so much of our attention has gotten, oh my goodness, take some, I'm going to sneeze. Take it.
So much of our attention has been committed to the written side. That was a big sneeze. Good.
And it never came, dadgummit. I hate it when that happens. It like almost gets you and you're like, oh no.
You got blue nostrils.
This funny meme the other day I was scrolling through Instagram of like the guys at the table and their old, boomer dad all of a sudden rears back like he's going to sneeze. And then it goes slow motion. Like everyone's running from the table because it's going to be this huge thing. That's how it was for me too, growing up. The big sneeze from the old man. Okay. What I was saying is, I don't listen to the podcast and stuff anymore, so maybe there are some things I missed is what I'm getting at from people. I'm talking in the blogosphere, the print columns, things like that, Twitter. I don't recall seeing much of anybody saying, oh my gosh, this Stidham. Then all of a sudden OTAs are over and we're hearing Stidham. So it's just kind of weird. I don't know. And maybe I did miss some stuff. I allow that, Zach, as a possibility. But either way, how Todd kind of concluded his comments here, it's still Nix's job to lose. And the biggest takeaway from this, guys, is if you are going to, as a veteran journeyman with 4 career starts, that's Jarrett Stidham, or even Zach Wilson, 33 career starts. Either one of those guys, if you are going to vanquish the handpicked by your head coach, rookie, first round quarterback in an open competition, it can't be that you're negligibly better or know the playbook negligibly better or, getting the ball out. The gap has to be pretty significant, or else they're just going to go err on the guy that they drafted. So I think that's more telling of kind of where things are. Yeah, you would expect Stidham to look significantly more comfortable and in command and of the offense. It is his second year. After the first year or so, Zach, they go through multiple learnings and then time on task. It becomes second nature. It subsumes into their football psyche. You expect them to look and be more in command and comfortable. Both Wilson and Nix, they're performing and learning on the fly. But what was one of the biggest things, Zach, that impressed Sean Payton and the Broncos about Nix in terms of the arithmetic that led to drafting him was his football IQ, his ability to basically distill a lot of information in a short amount of time and retain it. I'm not worried about that. Let's wait to see how things shake out when training camp rolls around.
And I don't think many in the media are saying that Stidham had the best offseason. It was one person in the media, that was Mike Kliss, who said that everyone in the media, and this is the problem, Chad, it's like telephone game. One person says something, a headline gets created out of that, and then people run with it as gospel when it's not. I mean, I'm with you. I haven't seen the Jarrett Stidham love fest. He hasn't done anything bad, but he hasn't been overwhelmingly great either, as far as I know.
And Zach, you're on Twitter a lot more than I am. Like you would see all that stuff too, because it's not just Twitter comments, people tweeting. All the same people. It ends up being, in the best sense possible, an echo chamber when you're on Twitter. In terms of even as media ourselves on Sports Illustrated, like you're tweeting, you're hearing from all the competition. You're hearing from the SB Nation sites, the fan-sided sites, the Nine Newses, the Denver Sportses, you name it, it's out there, and it kind of circulates back and forth. You see things, you hear things just scrolling through your Twitter feed without having any kind of inside contacts or inside information. Okay, and it's always helpful when you do, which we do, but nevertheless, this is a since Friday phenomenon. This idea that Jarrett Stidham, everybody knows he was the best quarterback of OTAs. I don't know why it feels so sus to me, but it does.
I talked about this last night, but this is the problem with June minicamp. I mean, if he's staying on schedule and he's looking decent, it's not really news. It's only news when you're impressively bad, like Zach Wilson was throwing a pick when he was given his first shot with the first string offense. So Jarrett Stidham has been okay, but I don't think, again, anything overwhelmingly better than Bo Nix. And if it's close, to your point earlier, Chad, the tie is going to Bo Nix all the way.
Okay, look who it is. We have another Mount Rushmore member of the community in Gary Plummer, who we originally, Zach, coined as the GLP because when he first started hanging out in the stream, he was on Facebook all the time, and it was Gary Leeds Palmer, right? We call him the GLP. And then he ended up watching more on YouTube, and it's Gary Palmer. But we've had a chance to hang out with this man. He goes hard, despite his the number of gray hairs in the beard, for lack of a better term. Love you, Gary. Seriously. Hope we get to see you. I know it didn't quite work out last meet and greet, but we hope to see you this time around. I know you made the trip and everything, but I hope to see you. Thank you, bro. He's saying here, though, giving Michaela props. You are special. Love you guys. Go Broncos. And I think it was, Zach, was it 22 or 21? I think it was 2022 where we did the summer kind of contest for the red carpet thing and the decent seats and stuff. And Gary won it on Facebook. Michaela won it on YouTube. And they ended up sitting by each other for that game, having a grand old time, watching the Broncos win because, of course, it was a meet and greet game. So they won.
Yeah. Michaela is definitely special, but Gary, you're special too. Thank you so much for your support as always, man. Definitely appreciate you.
How's that weather down in Yuma, by the way, Gary? I bet it's a hot one. That's for sure. Great to see you tonight, big dog. Also, some shouts here. I want to just give Pearl some hey, what's up over on Facebook. Great to see you tonight. Okay, let me see if there are any topics kind of that. There are a few things I kind of interested in getting into, and I'm happy to do so. But I just want to see what else may be on people's minds here tonight. Again, falling back here on Mr. Ostendorf himself. Tim Patrick looked like the best receiver. That's not troubling because Sutton was not there early. Only way to get in football shape is to play football. If that is true in more ways than one, what you just said, but remember too that one of the reasons, guys, that the Broncos were happy, not exactly like losing sleep over Cortland Sutton not being at the voluntary portion of OTAs, was their knowledge that he had off-season ankle surgery. And hey, let's let him recover. We're not going to bust his chops. Thus, we're not going to get too kind of up in arms yet on trying to solve what his beef is. Once you get to training camp, they'll get that solved. He'll be there. But Tim Patrick, Zach, he's kind of being resurrected off the off the out of the dustbin, so to speak, of history. Perhaps he's got to stay healthy, but if he does stay healthy, I think he's a guy that Sean Payton's going to have a lot of use for, especially if you have a competent trigger man like a Bo Nix, and even if you go with a Stidham initially, all right, even if it shakes out that way, and then they eventually turn to Stidham or Nix. Stidham, those 2 games, okay, that he started last year, at least the ball came out on time. Did it always necessarily go where you wanted it to or whatever? And so I think some of these guys, especially the position guys, Kroll or Dulcich, whichever one ends up leading as a receiver, tight end, they're going to have some opportunities this year. It's going to be a gas. Now, you might not have as much explosivity in your offense without that Russ Moonball, but you will get some deep shots regardless of who's the quarterback.
Yeah, I have 2 kind of competing schools of thought on Tim Patrick. Number one, I'm definitely rooting for him coming off 2 major injuries. I mean, him healthy is a boon to the Broncos offense. I want to see him on the field. My other school of thought is it's one thing to do it during the regular season, another thing to do it in June in shorts and t-shirts. He has a long way to go to prove that he's back. He also has to fight off Cortland Sutton and Devon Vele, who Sean Payton handpicked. I still think TP could be on the outside looking in, but all reports said that he was the best receiver minus Cortland Sutton at Broncos workouts, which is, again, very encouraging.
Indeed. Did you see that little clip earlier today? I was going to ask you about this, Zach, of Jake Plummer on, I think, Nick Ferguson's show, talking about the advice he got from John Elway when he first joined the Broncos as a free agent back in, was it 03? I think 03. And basically, I'll paraphrase what he said the advice was. He said, look, keep your head down and grind and work hard. And it might not always be pretty when you're in it, but if you do that, Broncos fans, Broncos country will love you, and you'll be remembered fondly forever. Like you'll be a hero. And I think back to the time that Plummer was the quarterback, and there were towards the tail end there when things got a little dicey, even pre-Cutler. There were some moments like him flipping off the home crowd from the sideline when he was getting booed coming off of a series, etc. He gets deposed by Cutler eventually and then traded to Tampa where he promptly says, "Nah, I'm out," and he retires. Then no one was really talking that much about Jake Plummer, but Zach, time heals all wounds, and time also tends to kind of crystallize things. And looking back in hindsight, he even said, like, Broncos country treats me so well, everything Elway said came true. He was 100% right. And that's a testament to Broncos fans and that loyalty. But shout out Jake Plummer.
Yeah, it was definitely right about Plummer. I think Broncos country looks back on him fondly, and you can make the case. I mean, Chad, I know you're big on him, but top 5 quarterback in Broncos history easily to you. Plummer.
I love him. Emotionally, he's my second favorite Broncos quarterback. I just love that cat, dude. Behind Elway and then Peyton and all that. But I mean, obviously couldn't quite get over the hump, and he had it. Did Plummer, man? He had it right there for the taking, dude. That 2005 AFC Championship game. There was if there's 100 versions of the universe, right? Like a multiverse, alternate realities. Broncos win that game at home over the upstart Steelers with the second-year Ben Roethlisberger probably 85 times out of 100 in those different universes. It just so happened in ours, we got one of the 15 where Jake, after, everyone knew him, Zach, as Jake the Snake, right? Kind of riffing off of the famous wrestler. Mm-hmm. That year, he, due to his play, earned the moniker No Mistake Jake. He had an amazing season. That defense was playing lights out. The Broncos rushing game could not be contained. You get all the way, and it's prime, Zach. Home AFC Championship game. You're going to the Super Bowl. you're going to face Seattle and Tim Hasselbeck and or not Tim. What's the other one? Matt. Sorry,
Hasselbeck.
Matt Hasselbeck. But mainly obviously the big threat was Sean Alexander. He was at the peak of his powers, so to speak. And you have the worst possible game of your career. That's how unfortunate that was for Jake Plummer. But man, Zach, they were this close, and they should have. It's like if NFL Network, NFL Films was still doing the Lost Rings, they should make a Lost Rings episode on the 2005 Broncos, because they should have gotten over that hump, gone to the Super Bowl, won it.
No mistake, Nix doesn't have the same ring to it, but the sentiment is the same, I think, Chad. If Bo Nix can play smart, ball-controlled football, keep the offense on schedule, don't turn it over, don't take unnecessary sacks, don't put the offense in bad situations, they can be feisty competitive. And his career arc could be something, if not better than Jake the Snake.
Yeah, shout out to him. Okay, guys, we're at 26 minutes. We're doing okay on time. But any specific topics, questions, get it in the chat. Grab this from George on Facebook. Great to see you, big dog. George Fox says, we have all seen what all three quarterbacks have done. Can't say anyone is out front of the others. Let's wait until we play another team live. Denver Broncos for life, MHH for life. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is we can only kind of talk about what is in front of us. You know what I mean? Like we can only analyze what's happening or what has happened. There's still a long row left to hoe for this quarterback competition. And I think, it's like I've said on this podcast many times, Zach, that the cream always rises to the top, so to speak. And in years past, like going back to the Trevor versus Paxton or the Drew versus Teddy and some of these training camp open competitions, like you're really hard pressed to go, ooh, which guy is like, who should we go with? You have to like start coming up with political reasons to err on either side. So like with Drew Lock, for example, it was like, well, he was our draft pick. There's the upside that's untapped yet, err on that side. Or the camp that was like, well, Teddy's got the experience, Teddy's the leader, all this. Because you were having to split those hairs, Zach. It was so just meh between them, neck and neck of just mediocrity, that you had to split hairs. Whereas a true bona fide guy, that cream will rise to the top. So I'm confident still that when it's all said and done, that will happen. Bo Nix will be one of those guys, but it remains to be seen. Time will tell.
Yeah, we have some supers we want to get to, but I agree, George, with the sentiment here. At under 2 months, though, exactly until the Broncos face another team live. They announced they're going to have joint practices with the Green Bay Packers ahead of their preseason game. August 16th is when that takes place. So TikTok, we're getting closer.
We got Mike Edel jumping in. What's going on, brother? Super chatting this morning, super chatting tonight. Appreciate you, bro. He says, OMG, you just gave me flashbacks to 05. My boys were little and cried. They hate the Steelers to this day. Yeah, that was a tough day, man. That was a tough game because the Steelers just, it wasn't that they played that great. I give them credit. I don't want to take anything away from them, but it's really, honestly, that was a case of at every turn, the Broncos stepped on a rake. They just kept shooting themselves in the foot one way or another. And yeah, it ushered in, Zach, the beginning of the Jay Cutler era. That's what that massive disappointment. I mean, it was colossal, the disappointment. And it obviously ate at Mike Shanahan quite a bit. That 2006 quarterback class that featured Vince Young, Matt Leinart, Jay Cutler. He ended up taking the third guy, Jay Cutler. So for what it's worth.
I mean, I kind of equate the 2005 Steelers with the 2012 Ravens. They weren't necessarily the best team, but both won titles that year, and they just were destined to win those titles, Chad. So the Broncos ran into destiny in the most literal sense.
Yeah, and that was the Jerome Bettis swan song season as well, as I recall. The Lady D, what is going on? The ladies of MHH just leading the way.
So much, Deanna. Wow.
Showing out. Deanna, we hope to see you at the meet and greet this coming September. Can't wait. Hopefully, I know it's a hop, skip, and a jump for where you live, but hope to see you. And thank you so much for the super. She says, hello, everyone. Evening, Chad, Zach, and Scott. Missed you all. We've missed you as well, Deanna. I will go back and listen. Michaela's new jersey that she's talking about, the Bo Nix jersey that she loves it. Wearing it proudly. # MHH for life.
She should wear it proudly. It's a very cool jersey. Michaela deserves it. But Deanna, it's great to see you again. Thank you so much. Hope you're doing well. Hope the family's doing well. I want to echo what Chad said. We hope to see you out there in September at the meet and greet.
Thank you so much, Lady D. You are the bomb.com. Thank you. What's Michaela saying here? What if we get Brady season tickets and ask Gronk to unretire? Maybe there's a conversation I'm missing early. I'm not sure what the context is. I'll scroll through.
I did find it kind of funny as an aside, Chad. Tom Brady made his broadcasting debut with the UFL, and it was in St. Louis, and he was booed mercilessly by the fans there. So,
really,
his NFL tenure should be interesting.
Can't wait though. We shall see. Okay, let me see. I mean, look, I don't know. Is that what Jake Plummer's doing? Home remodeling business now? I mean, I know he was doing
mushrooms, right?
Yeah, shroomage, some psilocybin stuff. I don't know, but he's always kind of been a little bit hippy dippy. Anyway, but Zach, grab this one here from Todd Ostendorf.
Yeah. Thank you, Todd, chiming in. Can you see Vele making the switch to play tight end? Seems like it is his best option to see the field this year. When not if, but when Dulcich goes down again, I can definitely see that, Todd, if that's, where they want to move Vele. But I'm not a fan, as you know, of kind of shoehorning players into different roles. They drafted him to be a receiver. Let him develop as a receiver, and don't cut off your nose to spite your face because you're gambling on Tim Patrick coming back from an Achilles and an ACL. I think the bigger replacement for Dulcich is the guy that Sean Payton compared Dulcich to, and that would be Lucas Kroll. He is the guy in that room, in that offense, that I'm really excited about, Chad, in year two.
Me too. When I co-hosted with Ron on Orange and Blue View Saturday night, and forgive me, I can't recall who it was that asked the question, but it was something like this, Zach. 4 names, which one basically doesn't make the roster or has biggest chance of being like a surprise cut, so to speak. I think it was between Dulcich, Samaje Perine, Tim Patrick, and there was one more. Dang it, I can't remember who that last one was off the top of my head. But I kind of, at first I was like, well, it's got to be Tim Patrick. But then I'm like, no, maybe it's Greg Dulcich. If Dulcich can't get off the training table and get back at it, Broncos are going to go, look, we need a roster spot. We've tried with this cat. We're going on 3 years of just injuries. I could see Greg Dulcich being handed his walking papers if, this is a big if, he has a significant setback health-wise in training camp and or early preseason, especially, Zach, with the way Sean Payton has been talking about Lucas Kroll.
Yeah, I want to see him develop naturally. I would love to see Dulcich stay healthy because he can be a weapon in this offense, that joker that Sean Payton was talking about. In terms of receiver, if you think about it, you're not necessarily rock solid. This could be Courtland Sutton's last year. You don't know what Marvin Mims is going to do. You don't know what Tim Patrick's going to do. And what do you really have behind them, Chad? Josh Reynolds, Lil Jordan Humphrey, Brandon Johnson. It would be nice if they drafted a player like Vele and he rises up to be maybe a long-term number 2 or a long-term number 3.
Phil, Sutton was the other choice, right? So Zach, you answer this question. Sutton, Tim Patrick, Dulcich, Samaje Perine. Which guy most likely not making the roster?
Perine. I think you have an excess of what he brings to the table with Javonte Williams and Audric Estime. I love Perine's pass catching ability, Chad, but not for the price tag that he's costing the Broncos this season.
I'd have to look again at his contract, but the one thing I'll say for him, just as devil's advocate, is he is the one guy you can fully count on to be competent in every arena. So you need to hand off the ball. He's the bell cow. He can do that if he needs to. You need him to catch passes out of the backfield, hurry up offense thing, move it quick. He can do that. Or if you need him to pick up a blitzing linebacker and not worry about it, like a set and forget guy on pass protection, he can do those things. And that's not to say, Zach, that Pookie can't. I think for the most part, Javonte ticks all those same boxes, but he's not quite the same fluid receiver, and he's not quite the same trustworthy. Even though he's a physical beast, dude, he's not quite as trustworthy in picking up the blitzes. But that is an interesting point you make.
Yeah, I mean, In a perfect world, the Broncos could keep them all, but there's a reason why they drafted Estime. They picked up Blake Watson. Jaleel McLaughlin had a great camp, and they're banking on Javonte being motivated in a contract year. I don't know. That's where I would go. I would cut the fat from the running back room.
Michaela Israel saying, my goal is to come to the meet and greet, bring Cooper this year, but tickets are super high right now. Hope we can come see everyone. Well, yeah, we'll see how it shakes out in terms of ticket prices when it maybe gets a little bit closer, but it would be great to see the two of you. So hopefully we do.
Yeah.
It does work out for you to be able to bring him down. That'd be really cool to see the two of you. Hope the little man's doing well. Give him our best. Okay, Zach, I think I want to grab this one, and then like if there's any burning topics, guys, as far as news, like there's one other thing we could maybe get into tonight before we dip on out of here, but consider this like the 2-minute warning of the podcast for today. But from Tom Foolery, who do you think emerges as the playmaker? Is it going to be Dulcich, Kroll, or Troutman? Talking tight end specifically, Zach.
One of those is not like the other. I don't think Adam Troutman and playmaker have ever been aligned in the same sentence. Dulcich could be that. I talked about it a minute ago. That Joker, he's a playmaker when he's on the field. The problem is he's never on the freaking field. Lucas Kroll, in his limited opportunities, he's like the Jimmy Graham of the offense, Chad. Really tall, big body, possession tight end that can go out and help you in the red zone. He had that nice touchdown catch from Russell Wilson last year against the Bills. I don't know, but I think if there's anyone to emerge as a playmaker, Lucas Kroll's my guy.
By the way, Michaela, Alberto, last I saw, had re-signed with the Eagles for what it's worth. So unless they were interested in dealing him away, but it's very rare that you see a team move on from a player and then he finds his way back, especially if they're traded. It's very, very rare.
Yeah.
But I like this from the Ronk. Sean Payton has one shot to show Broncos country he can develop a quarterback. You're right on that because, you know, Mike Shanahan, for example, he got multiple shots to prove he could do that because he won a Super Bowl, 2 of them within his first 5 years as head coach of the team. And that bought him a lot of benefit of the doubt, a lot of rope, a lot of equity with Pat Bowlen, the late Pat Bowlen. He got to first swing, Zach, for, you know, going down memory lane real fast was Brian Greasy. And the early returns, it looked like maybe they had something, but unfortunately they didn't. So he ended up going with a veteran kind of Band-Aid, which we talked about earlier, Jake Plummer. When that kind of flamed out as far as Shanahan saw it, I thought, frankly, I thought he pulled the plug way too soon on Plummer, on the Plummer era. But nevertheless, he got another shot. That was Jay Cutler. And, you know, he got about half a season as a rookie, Cutler. Not quite half a season, but then a full second year. But we found out in hindsight, was sicker than a dog with undiagnosed type 2 diabetes. Then once they got that figured out, year 3, Shanahan did develop him. I mean, he got a Pro Bowl nod that year, his one and only Jay Cutler Pro Bowl nod. But when you have a big lead in the AFC West, you haven't made the playoffs for a couple of years, you have a big lead in the AFC West, and then you lose the last 3. That season finale, which, Zach, if everyone can remember, on New Year's Eve, they lost to the Niners, 2008. That night, in defeat, they all go out for New Year's Eve, and that's when the tragedy struck of Darren Williams. But he got his chance to develop 2 handpicked, high-drafted quarterbacks. I mean, Greasy was a second-rounder, but he was still tapped to be the successor to John Elway. That flamed out. Then Jay Cutler. That's when Bowlen pulled the plug. Do you agree that Sean Payton gets only one chance here?
Absolutely. He has one shot, one opportunity. The thing is, though, he's going to get at least 2, maybe 3 years guaranteed. So anyone that wants these instant mashed potatoes, you know, instant gratification, you're going to have to be patient. And I know that's really tough after the last 8 years, but they haven't really gone this route with the first round quarterback since Paxton Lynch. And it takes to develop the guy properly, experience or not, patience. It's going to be rocky at times this year, Michael and everybody else. But if Bo Nix is the real deal, those colors will shine through at some point in the process. Just trust it.
Okay, last thing here, guys, and then we might be dipping out unless there's any burning topics on your mind. But, Zach, I wanted to get your thoughts on this relative to this same topic that the Ronk is rebroaching for us here tonight, Bo Nix. Jeremy Fowler of ESPN, of course, he made a Sports Center appearance last night, and this is what he said about kind of Bo Nix's stock coming out of the offseason training program. Quote, "I'm told that he really has impressed just beyond the normal talk about rookies coming along and playing well. I'm told that around traffic in the pocket with defensive linemen flying around him, he's delivered the ball calmly and accurately. I'm told that has stood out to the Broncos, and he's shown a lot of maturity. Those 61 collegiate starts have shown up. So this is a long quarterback battle. Stidham involved, Wilson, but Nix has made an early compelling case." And then he goes on to basically say, we'll see how it shakes out in training camp, Zach.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the quote. I found it the other day. The Broncos had that home run derby. I think it was sometime last week. Anyway, Zach Allen was there, and he was asked by Andrew Mason of DenverSports.com about Bo Nix. And this quote to me stood out, Chad, to kind of piggyback off what you said. Quote, "I won't say I'm a genius at quarterback play, but there's definitely some throws that are really impressive." And he's talking about that he's made an impression not only with the throws, but also his maturity. So you combine those two anecdotes together, and I would say Bo Nix is as advertised coming out of Oregon in year one so far, which is definitely encouraging, and the arrow's pointing up.
Agreed. And I think that's which way this thing is moving, and it's encouraging because we have been used to, unfortunately, even when Drew Lock, everyone was excited about Drew Lock, second round pick, albeit, but his rookie camp, everyone was like, yeah, you can see that arm, you can see the talent, but just he's swimming. He's way in over his head. It's going to take him some time, yada, yada. And then, he got his chance and finished as a rookie 4-1. But then the pandemic season hits 2020 amidst a coordinator change and all that stuff. He gets injured week 2, and then the rest is history. Bo Nix, even Paxton Lynch, right? Same thing. You can see the talent, you can see it, but he's obviously swimming still. You're not hearing those kind of things about Bo Nix. In fact, quite the opposite. Real quick, though, guys, before we dip out, some shouts to the people on Instagram watching live with us, like Big Rick in California. Good to see you, big dog. Shouts to Blue Jays and Cardinals. I don't know how. I'm not sure the last part of your handle there, my dog, but what up? Right back at you. I see AJ Zillinger over there on Insta. I see Ron White, the legendary mythical host of the Orange and Blue View podcast, checking it out on IG. So good to see everybody over there. But guys, we got the Ronk helping us, punctuate this episode. Thank you, bro. Great show tonight. He says, "Thank you, my dog." We do have a couple messages for you before we dip, so don't leave.
You mentioned Paxton Lynch, and I dab, Chad. It's just the way the things go. That's going to do it for another great episode of the Mile High Huddle podcast. If you're not doing so, please follow us on Twitter at the MHH Pod. You can follow the main account on Twitter at Mile High Huddle, Chad at Chad and Jensen, myself at Kelberman NFL, and Scott, our producer, at Scout Kennedy. If you guys want some merch like we're rocking each and every podcast, check out mhhmerch.com and get you some. If you haven't done so yet, please drop us a like at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. You can find us on Instagram at mile_high_huddle. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, make sure you're leaving your football priest a 5-star review for a chance to win some of that merch each and every single month. But if anything, y'all, please subscribe, like, and share this video and every video you see on the MHH channel. It really helps us grow and reach more Broncos fans just like you.
Indeed. Much love and respect to the great Super Chat superstars and supporters tonight, helping us keep the lights on. We're going to start with Mrs. 500, the Duchess, Michaela Parker. Love you so much. Seriously. Still stunned. We love you. The Papa Bear, Sam Bam, the Ronk, Mike Edel throwing down, Phil McLaughlin, the GLP, Gary Palmer throwing down, the Lady D throwing down from the top rope. Thank you, guys. We love you. Can't wait to talk to you again on Thursday. It's going to be a gas. Can't wait.
Michaela, Deanna, Mike, Gary, everyone, thank you all so much again. You guys are the engine behind this podcast. Chad and I are just the vessels driving it. Appreciate you guys. Have a great start to your week. We will see you Thursday night. Take care, and as always, go Broncos.